Hello everybody, welcome to my channel, Eclectic Reads. I have abandoned this channel for a few years, but something is just pulling me back to Booktube. I want to talk about all the books that I plan on reading, that I have read, and just get back into the swing of things. For a few years, I was really obsessed with cozy mysteries, and I'm still interested in cozy mysteries. In fact, I am currently listening to Hooked on Murder, which is the first book in a cozy mystery series all about crochet. I'm obsessed with crochet. Behind me is all my crochet stuff. You might be able to see some of the things that I've made. I can make a video all about that if you're interested, but crochet has taken over my life in the last 2 years. And so I've been interested in reading Betty Hitchman's cozy mystery series because it's all about crochet. It also involves a fiber arts group that meets at a bookstore. And I actually attend a weekly fiber arts group every Thursday evening at the local Barnes & Noble. So I am excited to continue this book. I started it yesterday and I'm still interested in cozy mysteries. But I've also been branching out into different kinds of books. Historical fiction, as well as books involving social issues. I did read the Cicero trilogy by Robert Harris. I actually made a whole video about it, which I will link down below. This was probably one of my most recent videos that I've made on this channel. But I'm also interested in rereading I, Claudius by Robert Graves. This is one of my all-time favorite historical fiction novels, and I would like to also read the sequel, Claudius the God. I just finished this morning watching the entire miniseries, the BBC miniseries I, Claudius, featuring Derek Jacobi as the Emperor Claudius, John Hurt as Caligula, and I don't know if I can pronounce her name, Sian Phillips, who plays Livia, who's like an absolute serial killer. This miniseries is brilliant. Like, I feel like I'm watching a stage play, not for the squeamish. The absolute depravity of the Roman Empire is on display in this miniseries. The acting is incredible. Highly, highly recommended. Definitely get it from your library. I think that Acorn, which is like a streaming service that is available through Amazon Prime, you can watch that entire series on there, but I just got it from my library. It's 12 episodes, I think. The first few episodes aren't very violent or graphic, but once we get Caligula as emperor, you can imagine it gets crazy. I mean, there's just so many jaw-dropping moments in this miniseries. Incredible. And, after watching this, I definitely want to reread I, Claudius. So that has been something I'm interested in. I will be reading a lot of other historical fiction, not just set in the Roman Empire, but set in different time periods. It's a wonderful way of experiencing history. So that is a goal of mine. And then when it comes to social books, I finished For the Love of Men by Liz Plank, which is about toxic masculinity, but is directed towards men. So often when we talk about toxic masculinity, we rightfully talk about its harm to women, but we neglect to talk about how toxic masculinity harms men. And something I never really considered is how, when it comes to gender expression, women have a wider range of possibilities available to them. Like, we can dress in clothing that has historically been associated with men. We can do a lot of things, and we're encouraged to do so, but men are still placed in this very narrow box of like what they're allowed to do. So I found this book to be really great, and I'll talk more about it in my monthly wrap-up. Before that, I read Cadillac Desert by Mark Reisner, which talks about the building of dams in the West and the Southwest. Much of this book is about the Bureau of Reclamation, which is a federal agency that was first established to allow farmers, small farmers in the West, to reclaim water, the limited water in the region, so as to irrigate their farms. However, quickly, the Bureau of Reclamation became all about building these huge hydroelectric dams, and also was in competition with the US Army Corps of Engineers. And so this book talks about the corruption and the just the politics of dam building. I found this book really, really interesting, especially as I live in the Southwest. We are always talking about water, but I don't think that we always appreciate how impossible it would be for people to live in this region, especially in places like Phoenix, if it weren't for these dams. So they are a blessing and also a curse. And I highly recommend this book, even if at times it does drag, especially at the end. This is a really great book. I have other books dealing with social issues that I'm either currently reading or will be reading. I'm currently reading Empire of Pain, The Secret History of the Sackler Dynasty by Patrick Radden Keefe. I am, almost halfway through this book. It is deeply fascinating and also horrifying. Basically, of course, the Sackler family is highly responsible for the opioid epidemic in pushing OxyContin. And, it starts all the way back with Arthur Sackler, who was the oldest of the Sackler brothers, who came to own Purdue Pharma. He was a psychiatrist, he was a doctor, who was also very involved in advertising. And it is this mix of medicine and advertising that really accounts for the opioid epidemic. So this book has been really, really good. And I didn't even realize that there would be a connection between this book and the next book, The Father of Spin by Larry Tye, Edward L. Bernays and the Birth of Public Relations. I've been meaning to read this book for quite a while now. Edward Bernays was this father of modern advertising who helped market cigarettes to women. He created this whole campaign called Torches of Freedom, arguing that smoking would be this wonderful way for women to express their liberation from patriarchy, thereby marketing cigarettes to an entire demographic that hadn't been smoking before. How wonderful. So turns out that there is a nice connection between these two books, and I think I'll make a video all about modern advertising and its ills. Those are some of the books that I'll be getting to soon, but I have other books out from the library. Here's the entire pile. I have The Knowledge Gap, The Hidden Cause of America's Broken Education System and How to Fix It by Natalie Wexler. I am a middle school English teacher, which is also why I often don't have a lot of time to film during the year. And so I'm very interested in reading this book because apparently it challenges the notion that children should be reading for the main idea and instead focusing on building background knowledge, which is something I very much believe in. So I look forward to reading this. After reading Cadillac Desert, I decided I needed to read Encounters with the Archdruid by John McPhee. This book chronicles the conflict between David Bauer, the environmentalist, and Floyd Dominy, who was the head of the Bureau of Reclamation. And David Bauer opposed the damming of the Colorado River. I think that's what this is about. Yes, the Colorado River and the Grand Canyon. So this is about this conflict, so I look forward to reading that. I've got a biography, Sally Ride, America's First Woman in Space by Lynn Scher. I have Take Up Space, The Unprecedented AOC. I don't know who the author is. It's not on the cover. It's by the editors of the New York Magazine. And it's got some nice photos in here. I think it has photos in here. Does it have photos in here? Oh yeah, it has photos. And it has like graphics and things like that in here. So I've been interested in her, especially because she's only a few years older than I am, and obviously has accomplished a lot. So I'm interested in reading this. Returning to mysteries, I want to reread The Pericles Commission by Gary Corby. Unfortunately, the library sticker is covering the title, The Pericles Commission. This whole series is set in ancient Athens, and we have the brother of Socrates who is investigating murders. I read this about a year and a half ago, and I want to reread it and continue with the series. Then, because every cozy mystery booktuber has talked about this book. There's Gone for Gouda by Karina Moss, which is the first book in the Cheese Shop series, and I have been told that this is the quintessential cozy mystery series, so I look forward to reading it. And finally, because I absolutely love clever, well-researched historical mysteries, I've got an instance of The Finger Post by Ian Pearce. I have read one mystery by Ian Pearce. This one was set in an art gallery. I forget what it was called. But I've been meaning to read this. It's giving me very much that Umberto Eco vibes. Name of the Rose is one of my all-time favorite novels. So I really look forward to reading this, and this is set during this English Civil War. So these are all the books that I plan on reading. As you can see, I am still reading cozy mysteries, but I'm also interested in reading other kinds of books, which is why I think ultimately Eclectic Reads is a better reflection of my reading tastes than any other name that I have had in the past. The elephant in the room, of course, is the lack of French novels, and I really do need to return to reading French literature. Living in the Southwest, I don't get to speak French very often, and I don't ever want to lose the language. I have a PhD in French. It would be really quite the tragedy. Although I think this year, next year actually, which will be my third year teaching, I will be running a French elective. So this will be an opportunity for me to connect with French yet again. Please let me know if you've read any of these books and how your reading tastes have changed in the last few years, if they have at all, or whether you're still doing the same thing you have before. Thank you everybody for watching, and I will talk to you soon. Bye now.